Hello, fam. Welcome back to Dose of Duality, the podcast where we create space for navigating the messiness of life, embracing our community and culture around the state of coexistence. My name is Alicia Ferguson. Shout outs to you, girl. And you may have noticed that Deja, my co-host, is not here. Yo, your girl's officially on maternity leave, y'all, and we are so happy to see her prepare to give life and bring life into this world. She has been working to the very end, and it's honestly been inspiring to see. I don't know if I would have had the energy and the joy. You know what? I might have had the energy. I don't know if I would have been as joyful as she was along the process. So let's just send her lots of love, send her prayers, send her blessings. But how are y'all doing? No, really, like, how are y'all doing? Make sure you're liking, you're subscribing, shoot us a message on YouTube, shoot us a message in the DMs. Honestly, I look through everything, we look through everything, and we love to keep the conversation going. And since it's just gonna be me for a little bit, I wouldn't feel like I'm here talking to myself, y'all. So shoot me a message, let me know. I have been, like our intro, it says messiness. I feel like I've been playing around in that space a little bit more lately, the messiness of life, and just establishing like what my new routines are. Definitely as the seasons are changing, as I'm still, again, you guys hear me talk about it every episode, figuring out this duality of living in two places, and the joy and the challenges that come with that. This week, I love that Atlanta, my new city, Atlanta. I used to say it like Atlanta, and then they told me it was Atlanta. Am I saying it right? Atlanta. Anyway, I need more Southern drawl to my voice for it. But Keith Lee came, and Keith Lee is one of the most famous TikTokers ever out there right now. And he spotlighted all the restaurants in Atlanta, but he does it secretly, covertly. And he honestly blew up Atlanta. Like, the one thing that I've been struggling with here is the social norms around eating out. There's so many rules. It doesn't make sense to me. As I don't say a native New Yorker, but I've been there for a while. It just feels like it's a difference. Like, they have a 90-minute seat minimum for where you can sit. There's like a whole menu about what you can and what you can't eat. There's all these like specific rules. They don't push tables together. They don't do delivery. You can't stand inside while you're waiting for your food. It's just so much. And so Keith put language to my experience in Atlanta, what I've been feeling here as of lately. So shouts to you, Keith. And honestly, if you haven't seen the TikToks, go do a deep dive right now, y'all. Keith Lee, Atlanta. Speaking of language, though, we have a very special guest today. I am so excited, honestly, to get into this conversation with him. So his name is Marvin Malone. Let's talk about Marvin. Marvin is a multi-hyphenate creative. He tells stories, and he tells stories through a multitude of mediums. He's a marketer. He's a producer. He's a performer, y'all. Trained actor and performer. He's done some things on Off-Broadway. He's also a DEI advocate. He's a champion for change. And honestly, one of the most impactful things I heard him say in our talk together was he's an educated Black man. I'm gonna say that again. He's an educated Black man. The power in that, period. Nothing else. No comma, stop. So Marvin created this amazing TED Talk, and it's called Speaking to the Crowd. And he's really talking about language, how it crafts the world around us and our understanding of the world. We talk about so much. There's so many gems. One of the things that I learned was Ebonics might be considered a second language soon. Mind blown. I'm so smart. Sign me up. I'm a dual linguist now, y'all. But let's not delay this conversation anymore. Let's hop right into this as we talk to Marvin Malone today. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you today. How are you feeling?
You know, I feel great. Like, it's Saturday. It's a beautiful, brisk day.
Wait, where are you at right now? Where are you at in the world?
I'm in New York. I'm in Bed-Stuy, the Bed-Stuy.
We love Bed-Stuy. Home.
Yes, we do. So it's a chilly day here, but you know, we just Halloween, so you already know it's Christmas. Then we get 3 days, 2
Yeah.
days of Thanksgiving, and then back to Christmas. So I'm feeling good. How are you? Where are you at?
So I am in my second home, which is
Yes.
Atlanta right now.
Yes.
I'm getting acclimated to. I honestly had this whole kind of process where I was kind of like struggling where I'm like, where is home? Like, is home a physical place? Because I'm split between two. Bed-Stuy has my heart. I love New York. I've been there for like 16 years. But as we grow and mature and life starts lifing, I'm in Atlanta right now and I'm loving it here, but I'm trying to figure out what makes it home for me here. And Atlanta is so different. Like, it's honestly not a real place, y'all. Like, and I say that lovingly to the other people who are original, like the AT aliens, they call themselves, but it's just not a real place. Like, the things that they feel like are acceptable is ridiculous. And coming from New York, such a well cultured,
Yeah.
cultured environment, um, I'm just confused. The math doesn't math with like how they operate with the beauty
Yeah.
industry and the food industry. So that's been my like my not even my struggle, but my challenge here
Yeah.
is figuring out what areas, what places, what spaces like make me feel like home.
Yeah. Shout out to Keith Lee for busting that thing wide open.
Bruh.
Um,
Bruh. And
but
I was sitting there like, thank you, thank you.
yes.
I'm like, I've never been to a place where you get a menu and then you get a second menu with rules. I'm like,
Or that you get a menu and then you get another menu that says these are the things we don't have today, and it's basically the whole menu.
whole menu. Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
basically saying you have the option between the chicken or the beef. Which one you want more?
Always, always. Yeah, always, always.
You know?
And a lot of times the food here, man, I'm gonna say this.
Right. Be careful.
Right? Like I just let me surgically do this one. The food, I love Southern food, so put it there. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
here for the grits. Like, your girl's been getting thick, and I've been loving it with the biscuits and the grits and all the things. But a lot of times, the food is just a lot of cheese and a lot of sodium, and they hype it up with like Henny grits
Yep.
or Patron wings, and I'm like, can I just get a really good dish? Like, you don't
Like that's
miss me
really
with
crazy
extra.
because like if you use the right seasonings, you actually wouldn't need to add anything else.
Crazy idea
Yeah.
is to
Yeah.
let the food speak for itself
Yeah.
and the freshness
But
of
to
it.
your point about finding community, and I know we'll like dive into things,
Yeah.
but it's crazy. I was having a conversation with someone last night. It's one of my friends, and we lived in Chicago together. And I moved to New York 18 months or so ago. He just moved here 2 months ago. And so we were talking. He was like, do you have any words of advice? So we were like having a little chat.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't feel like I have community here. And I said, I'm telling you now, all the things you are prioritizing, prioritize that,
Yeah.
because when I moved here, and I'm gonna like leave it because I know we'll probably come back to it or
Yeah.
somehow we'll get back to it. But when I moved here, I struggled if I've been here 18 months, maybe I struggled 14 months. And and nobody would have even known that because
Um,
we're going to have all these conversations about all the things that went well and all the things that are going well.
yeah.
And so people see the smile on your face, they see the accomplishments and the wins, but as you know, they don't know anything that's going on behind closed doors. And I told him, I said, all of it would have been alleviated with the right people. I was like,
Mm,
and it wasn't that I didn't know the right people, but there's a difference between having friends and having community. And
yeah.
your friends can be your community, but there's a commitment to community and village,
Yeah.
and a mutual agreement and
Yeah.
of protecting each other, caring for each other, being there for each other.
Mm.
And we have to let people in and allow them to want to be there. It's just the whole situation. So, anyways, another conversation
I
for another
think
time. But
that
I would encourage you.
th- thank you. Yeah, yeah, to lean in. And that's been one of the things, and I'm so big on like being in community, creating community. And I
Yes, sir.
felt a sense of, but when I got here, there was also a space of, I was just like, like, I actually just, because it started off as me just coming to visit, and then it kind of started extending itself, and then the back and forth. And I was like, I'm actually going to set up here a little bit. So it started off as like a reprieve and a rest. And so what I have realized is initially I wasn't seeking community. I was like, ooh, does this feel weird? Is something wrong with me? Like, I'm
Yeah.
always like, where do people in them be at? Like, where the family be at? And so I think just now I'm getting my like, I'm being replenished where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like I'm ready to like seek out and be, and I found church community here, which I really love. Shout out to Change Church. I feel like I talk about them every single
Love
episode. y'all just tap into Darius Daniels. Just
I
do
was gonna
it.
say, is that Darius? Okay, I'm a fan. We could do a whole nother episode about being.
That was last episode. We went in with our guest Ty. Shout out to Ty. But yes. But speaking about when you're talking about community and just this like shared sense of belonging that comes, I think language, which is what I picked up from your TED talk, language is one of those things that kind of like paved the way for that and kind of like put us in these groups where we find like-minded people that speak the same language. And so we have a language game that I want to break the ice with you. All right. So how this is going to go is rapid fire. I'm going to just shout some words out and I need you to keep it 100. I need you to just shoot it from the gut. Don't think too deeply.
Okay.
Don't get philosophical on me. Okay? Just shoot it out.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Home.
Family.
Words.
Power.
Okay, Baldwin. Journey.
Long.
Ooh, child. Drama.
Me.
Yo, okay, honestly, when I wrote drama, I thought of you though in that way.
Drama. Who's the drama? I am, and I must admit.
Yes, I love it. You was like, sometimes it's me, and I know it.
I'm nothing if I'm not accountable.
Okay. TikTok.
Fame.
Okay, shape.
Circle.
Okay. Family.
Home.
I love that. Language.
Sharing.
Out of pocket.
You.
You rude. Chicago.
Home.
Okay. Fear.
I think that's the word right there.
We're going to take that. It's layer. It sounds like layers and complication there.
Yeah.
Intersections. Yeah.
Yes.
Work.
Heart.
Spirit.
Strong.
New York.
Tough.
ADOS.
ADOS?
ADOS. Okay, I was wondering if you knew what ADOS was. So ADOS is, okay, one, you did amazing. That was hilarious.
Thank you.
So ADOS is American Descendants of Slaves. Is how this the acronym is what they call that.
Let me tell y'all something about this girl Alicia.
What you about to
say? She does the work. She does the homework. Okay, teach us, please.
Yeah. It's American. Well, I was so inspired by the TED Talk. Everyone, we're gonna hop into it, but just do yourself a favor, like pull the tab up, put it on the side, prepare to like watch this. Please after you listen to us, then go watch the TED Talk. Yeah. But I love because you were very specific in your TED Talk when you said there's American Standard Language. And if I get anything wrong, forgive me.
For sure, yeah.
And then there was Black American, or like, was it Black American language?
Yeah, so some people say AAV, which we usually say, right? Okay. Afro-American Vernacular English or Black American English.
And then when you were like saying, you specifically though denoted that it's Black African Americans, Black Americans that are descendants of slaves.
Yes.
And a lot of people could say we're all descendants of slaves in some respect.
Sure.
But it does get specific when you talk about Black people as a whole, because it's like, are you from Haiti? Are you from Dominican Republic? Or maybe you're like literally just from the continent of Africa. And so that specificity says a lot though.
And it does also, because something that we have to discuss and is a barrier that we can break down to at another time, which this is more Googleable than anything. But it's kind of like how problematic the phrase African American is when it's used to describe Black people in America, because really what you're aiming to describe is
preacher.
Right. So culture and nationality. So you're really looking to say Mexican American. I mean, like you're really looking to say like Haitian American. You're looking to say Dominican, whatever. Meaning this is their culture. And this is where they live. When you say African American, you are literally talking about a person from Africa who lives in America. When you say Black American, now you're speaking about someone who has descendants that trace back to Africa culturally, but they live in America, right? Just like I could say a black Spaniard or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you're aiming to say. And so really like all these phrases and all these terms are so problematic when you really look at them at their core, which is um and I know you're teeing it up, but that's really where like this whole thing for the TED Talk came from. And I'm so glad that some people got a chance to hear it and view it, and it's
Yeah.
inspiring people and teaching people. And I'm learning through the conversations that I have after it. So thank you.
This was and it was in such a palatable way too, which I like thoroughly enjoyed. And I think what you just described there is like it boils down to when we say language means things. Words mean things. Like words mean things. And so when we say something, no, like we should be aware of like the connotation. We should be aware of
Mhm,
like where we're saying it, how those people are going to take it. And so we kind of like toss things out, especially when it comes to like identifying marginalized groups of just
mhm.
y'all black. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but like
But
within
also, but
those
and
experiences are so different.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and to your point about the palatable part, like I realized that my mission in life I've come to find is like to create spaces where people know they belong. Like
Mm,
there's this joke even in my friend groups where like Marvin ain't coming by himself. He always gonna bring somebody. And actually they laughed about it like a couple nights ago. I had some friends in town and then I had another friend in town. And so I was sitting there with this friend group and then a whole nother friend group walked in the bar and they're like, wait, you know that why are they, basically why are they here? And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, they're in town. But if I'm here, you can roll. Like there's
Everybody
no
can pull
space
up.
that I'm in that like
Yeah.
I don't I believe that there should be standards but not exclusivity. Like I'm
Yeah.
all for like we in there kind of thing. And I'm saying that to say that like that was so important to me with the delivery of this TED Talk. I wanted to make sure that from the youngest child to the most
Hmm.
inexperienced white person or non-Native American, right?
Yeah.
Like someone who really doesn't understand the cultural dynamics that we have here, specifically in America around race and around blackness,
Yeah.
really hear this, understand it, pick it up, and if not apply it here, make it applicable for their situation.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So with you, what I really love that you said is what your mission is, your mission in life, which I think that's something we all should kind of take note of and really assess like what are we here for? Like what do we want to do? But I want to say, what are you grateful for
Hmm. Whew. Um,
in this moment and today,
yeah,
this week, however you want to take it? What are you grateful
yeah. Thank you for asking that. That's something that I've been like dealing with this week because I think when life hits, one of the easiest things to do is to complain, but it's so hard to complain when you realize all the things that you have. And so to sum it up, I think the thing I'm most grateful for is like knowing that God hears me. And I'm not even saying that to be
for?
philosophical or sound deep,
Yeah.
but I think Maya Angelou said it. She said, I love that there is beauty in knowing there's a safe space inside of me. And I always keep a space that's private and just for me, because what if that's the place you go after you die to be with God? What if you carved out that's just
Mm,
yours? And so as we grow up,
mm,
nothing could prepare us for adulthood. Like
mm.
I don't care what nobody say. I don't care what your parents did.
Yeah.
Nothing
No.
prepares you for adulthood, but just
Nope.
doing it.
Mhm.
And as I've like journeyed through life, I'm realizing that all these outside forces can do all the things they want. Life can life, all that stuff. But I'm so glad that like I can take 5 minutes and pray, or I can take that moment and just go with inside myself and just like within and just have that moment, or what I'm grateful for knowing that like I'm not alone in this thing. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
so. I would
Oh,
ask that back. What are you grateful for?
thank you. That was so touching, and because a lot of what you're speaking, especially about that, like carving out that I say like my internal sanctuary.
Yep.
I never thought about it in terms of like, what if that is the place that you go to, like at the end with God, and so we know that everything that we have is already within us. And
Hmm.
so when it comes to looking for like divine clarity, and we're always like, what do I need to do or what's going on? Or it gets chaotic. It's like the one thing that you do is you come and turn, like you come to self, find
Yeah.
that sacred pause, get quiet, get still, try to hear what your inner knowing like is saying. And then you also need to nourish that like inner self. And so I would say that because today is the first day that I'm off it, I
Mm-hmm.
fast at the beginning of the month for the first 3 days. It's like a spiritual fast that I've been doing for maybe like honestly probably 3 years now. And I'm grateful for that. It was a real like struggle in the beginning, like a real discipline of like all of a sudden in those 3 days, everything that I can't have is what's illuminated. It's like I can't have coffee. I have coffee literally immediately after the fast is over, but still
Yeah.
during it, it's like I can't have coffee, and I'm not allowed to have sugar, and I can't have a drink, and I can't eat like eggs. I love eggs and like specific foods. And the level of spiritual clarity that I get during those times, even though I'm sacrificing things, I'm gaining so much. And I finally gotten to a place within the last couple months where I appreciate it. And I'm grateful for the experiences, even though it's a tension still. It's not like I'm like skipping through my fast. Like, yes, this is wonderful. I love restricting, like certain things, but I know that I'm doing it for a greater purpose. And what I get at the end of it is so um, just fulfilling. So I'm grateful for closing out my fast and not being on it, but I'm grateful for that process.
Yeah, no, congratulations. Like fasting is one of my favorite but most challenging spiritual practices. And so one of the friends that I hung out with this week, she is in town for the New York Marathon. She's
Oh
running.
yeah, shout out to all the marathoners this
Yes,
week.
yes,
The streets are about
please
to be Brooklyn about to be.
listen. It's
Yeah.
about to be crazy, but she's here. And one of the conversations that we had several years ago is it was about her running, right? And
Mhm.
I remember when she started running, and she would run 3 miles, and then she would break that record and run 5, and then run 7. She just got so good at it. And I was like, what keeps you going? And she told me, she said, there comes a point in my run where I am literally depleted. I cannot go any
Mm,
more. She was like, and I'm sorry if I'm being deep. Like, I'm not trying to be, but like, it's almost like God just kicks in and takes over. And I think, and she was like, there's no way that I can run 30 miles. I'm sorry. Like, I
yeah,
physically can't do it. She was
yeah,
like, but there's this like rejuvenation that comes. And ever since that conversation, I always explain fasting the same way. I'm
yeah,
like, fasting is one of the most challenging and hard things you can do. But there comes a moment where you're like, oh, I know why I'm doing this. I
yep,
see the goal. I see the
yeah,
point. Let's get it, you know?
yeah, yeah.
And I
There
think life
is
is a
that
lot like that.
divine, like you're saying, that divine, it's almost like it adds when you think about supernatural, it's like we're in the natural, and it's like it adds the super to our natural. Like
Our
it gives us
natural.
that boost. Yeah, it gives
Yeah.
us that thing that's not possible. It doesn't feel possible,
Mhm.
and our own humanness. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
And running the marathon, that's a goal, but
Maybe that's a goal, but that's a loose goal.
God willing, we're gonna get there one day. So I want to talk
Yes.
about TED Talk.
Yes.
So it's called Speaking to the Crowd.
Yeah.
Um, I really that what really stuck out to me was just like I said, language, and like how important language is, how it is used to express emotions, how it's used to express our wants and our needs, how it can be weaponized at times, how it helps us feel a sense of belonging in spaces, and all the things. But like, how did this TED Talk come about?
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
right? Like it's new, it's fresh. Like you
Yeah.
just did the damn thing. So like,
Yeah.
how did
Yeah.
this come about? Walk us through that. And
Yeah.
then, and again, the topic. How did that resonate with you?
Yeah. So for people who have not heard it yet, I did a TED Talk earlier this year, and it's a talk that I always the title is Speaking to the Crowd, and the subtitle is a talk on professional and social equity. And so I'll answer both. So how did it come about? So
Yeah.
when 2020 happened, I had just booked a show that was slated for a hopeful Broadway run. I was living in Chicago, and so the goal was that we were going to do an out of run tryout, fix some things, workshop it, take it on a small tour, and hopefully land on Broadway. And so we had like some timestamps there, and so the goal was to move to New York August of 2020. So at this time, my career is really taking off. I've been acting, I've been doing all these things. But I knew that while I was in these spaces, I was just like, the reason why I am excelling over some of my peers who are much more talented than me, much more plugged than me, is because in a lot of ways, I am more palatable to the white gaze, GAZE, than most people, right? And so there are folks out there who, because I come from a certain pedigree or background, because I have a certain amount of education, because I look a certain way, because I speak a certain way, because I act, it's more comfortable to have me in their space. So I became viscerally aware of like the tension between Black culture and the culture in which we live in, standard American culture, as I call it. Fast forward, COVID happened, and I realized that we were not going to go back to work anytime soon as actors. And so I started to just have a lot of free time. So I was at the gym every day, and I was writing and praying every day. Those were the three things I did. I cooked and would be taught, like, I literally used cooking as a freaking spiritual, like, I was like, I would be cooking, praying, like, whatever. I would go to the gym, and that was my release. And then I would come home and write all the things that were on my brain, whatever it was. And one of those things was, I had compassion for both sides. I had compassion, and I like to I like to be clear about teetering this line, not in an all lives matters way. But I had this thought of like, I am Black, and I understand what I am experiencing in the world and in this country right now. On the other side, a large majority of my community, my colleagues, my friends, my trusted folks are white, and many of them come from white spaces, right? And so a lot of them are looking like, what do I do right now, right? Now it's 2023. It's been so many think pieces, articles.
Yeah.
Go and do your research. But at that time, it wasn't as accessible, right?
Yeah.
And so I had this thought of like, what if there was a book to explain? What if there was some type like piece of information to be able to explain, like, this is the stuff that you don't know that we do every day. We change the way we talk. We change the way we wear our hair. We change the way we act. These are the things we do to be accepted in the circles that you can show up, bad hair, coming in, like the things that you can do without thinking twice. We have to prepare our entire lives and shift the way we think, act, move around it. So during that time, I was writing a book that was essentially about that, which I never released because I didn't know how it would be perceived, because it was such a touchy topic. And at the moment, I was like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so, but in the process of writing the book, I also wrote out, I'm a marketer first. So I wrote out like basically what the PR and release plan would be. And one of those things was that I wanted to do a TED Talk that would be a shorter version of the book to push people, drive people to buy the book. And so I applied for a TED Talk. They essentially came back to me and was like, they were like, yo, like what, like the topic, like what you want to talk about, but you don't really fit our class of speakers. Like, you didn't make the cut this time. I was very hurt, but I was like, okay, it's not supposed to be, whatever. Fast forward 2 years later, I'm on a call with a mentor of mine. He's kind of like my career guru. He's like the one who supports me, pushes me, gives me insight. And we're talking, and I was like, I just feel so frustrated because I'm taking on all these clients, and and at the time I was doing a lot of social media marketing for folks and freelancing in that way. And I was telling them one of my principles. I'm about to drop some free gems on y'all.
Get your notepads ready.
But wait, drop the bomb. Boom.
Flux.
I'm about to drop some free gems on y'all. Something that I always share with my clients is that you are three people, right? So you are the way you perceive yourself and who you truly are, right? Like who I am when the doors are closed.
Yeah.
I am the way people perceive me, right? And then I am, I always say it's who you are, it's who people think you are, and it's who you want people to see, right? And so I was telling him, I was like, he told me, I basically was like, I'm just so frustrated because I don't know what's my next step in life. I feel like I'm stagnant. And he was like, well, what's that piece of advice you always give clients? And I was like, you are this, and you are this. He was like, okay, so what are you doing in this? What are you doing in this? And what are you doing in this? Like, people think of you this way. So what are you doing to fulfill what your audience needs? You know that you want people to see this about you, and you are truly this. So we started having this conversation, and he was like, so what about that TED Talk idea? Because it seems like that is the culmination of all of those things. And one thing led to another. I said, oh my gosh, like, he was like, here's a link. There's one coming up in Chicago. Like, you gotta apply. And I went to go apply. As I'm applying, they also reach out to me, and they're like, hey, you should. It was just like a full circle moment. They're like, you should apply. And I was like, wait. What's going on?
Coming to me? Like, you want me?
Coming to me.
Wow.
Anyways, I go ahead, I apply. I ended up getting it. And there are a lot of more powerful details in there about how full circle it was. And just a reminder, like, yo, it comes at you when it's supposed to. And I could have been so hung up. And this is a lesson that I'm learning, actually, as I say this out loud. I could have been so hung up that I didn't get it the first time that I said, I'm not going to apply again. I could have been so hung up that I didn't, like, I don't know, that I wasn't as invested or whatever, not realizing there were so many people that need to hear everything that I'm So anyway, so I ended up doing it. So that's how it came about, which is a very just powerful realization when I say it out loud. what I talk about in the TED Talk, essentially, I start off by introducing myself. One of the things that I always say when I'm entering a room, especially my friends, I'm like, yo, 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 what's good? It's me, your boy, Young Marv. Like, I always say that to the point where my
Yeah,
friends are like, oh my gosh, please shut
we
up.
get it. It's Young
Right,
Mar.
we get it. It's Young Marv. We get it. Look out for that rap album coming 2025. Um, I essentially started off that way, and then I say, yo, I know that this like doesn't seem appropriate for the space that we're in right now. We're in a
Yeah,
very professional space. We're at a school. You are expecting me to say like, hi, my name is Marvin Malone. These are all of my accolades. These are all the things I've done. And let me tell you, something really, really educational and speak this
yeah.
way, act this way, do all these things.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what this TED Talk is going to teach you, that I don't need to change, show
Mm,
up to be credible, to have something powerful to say, to
mm.
whatever. And so then dive into talking about, and then I'm going to kind of leave it alone and let you
Yeah.
ask the question. I want to give away the
No,
whole thing.
go ahead.
I then dive into saying using language as a case study or a springboard to express again all of the ways in which traditionally marginalized
Yes.
communities, underrepresented communities, especially in this standard American structure in which we live in, and just the colonial structure of the world that we live in,
Yeah.
has caused us to have to shapeshift, change who we are, and as we know it, code switch in not just
Hmm.
our language, but in every way that we show up to be acceptable to other people. And so I use, again, language as the base, but meaning all of these things. Again, our hair, our this, or that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so I get a chance to, like, during that 10-minute talk, I get a chance to dive into the ways in which language has affected our education communities and kids being held
Yeah.
back, even though they truly are performing at the highest percentile, just maybe not in the way the standard American culture says so. And the ways that slang and ebonics and our culture is appreciated when it's time for it to be appropriated or capitalized on, but not when we are genuinely and authentically using it. So when I show up into a job interview and I say, yo, what's good, my guy, then
Yep.
I'm unprofessional. But when you're scrolling TikTok after the job interview and you see somebody say it, you like it, and you go buy the product that they're pushing. Why? Because they seem cool doing it, because they are of a lighter hue. They seem cool doing
Hmm.
it because they are, quote unquote, the in crowd. And so it's just it takes an interesting, quick
Yeah.
preview into the ways communities can be marginalized, um, based off of not being the one in power, not being the one in control,
Yeah.
having to then conform to those who do have
Yeah.
that power. So,
I love there was so many powerful things that you said. One of the things that kind of really stuck out to me the most was um well, there's a few things. So the first one was your internal dialogue. And so we talk about languages in like the spoken language, right? But there's body language, there's the written language, but even like
yes.
how we speak and how we talk to ourselves, like that language. And so you didn't let your internal dialogue, that inner critic, stop you from continually pursuing something, because that seems to be like when we get that no, right? Sometimes it's like ain't for me, like I don't want to have to go through that rejection process again.
Yeah.
So like that was dope that you have a community that supports you in that way and pushes you for that, like going back to what we said, why community is so important, right? And then the other thing that I loved was when we talk about language, it really has the ability to shape
Yeah.
um, the world, the world that we live in, how we perceive it. It influences our understanding of the world that we live in, and it also affects our relationships, right?
Mm.
And so it can be one of those things where the way we speak, how it's not accepted in certain spaces but because it's become pop culture, right? So it's not professional here, but because it's pop culture, someone else can actually do it in the workplace and it's funny. Or you could just do it outside the workplace and it's completely acceptable. And it's like, this is a way of life. Like, this is actually, when you talked about in your TED talk, those early moments of how kids learn, Black and brown kids in their home, essentially. And it's like, well, this is the first introduction to language that they know. So if we actually brought that into the educational spaces, like their comprehension and understanding would fly through the roof. Those tests that you spoke about in your TED talk proved it. One of the things, we have this segment called the Daily Dose, and I think it's the perfect time to bring it up. And so the Daily Dose is we talk about something in pop culture that just relates to what we're talking about today. So I found this TikTok, and it was trending for a little bit. There's a few, but there's one that's really hilarious. And the person on there, we'll drop the link so everyone can see it in the show notes. But the person on there is this Gen Zer, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like my boss comes in." Have you seen it?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
So my boss comes in and she's always like, "I'm going to be out of pocket for the rest of the day. So just let me know if you need something." Right. And so he's like dying laughing in this TikTok. And he's like, I'm like, "Girl, what you about to get into? You about to be out of pocket, right? Like, what you
out of pocket?
to do? Like, you about to be out of pocket." And so I think what's so funny is, again, how language is what means one thing to somebody else means something completely different, and like bringing it into the professional space, but it's flipped here where she thinks she's using like out of pocket as in
a professional term. I'm not going to be available.
I'm not available. Like, do not disturb.
Yes.
Be right back type of thing. And out of pocket means like you wildin', you tripping, you come at me, like,
bro.
You did a lot right now. Yeah. Like, you're doing a lot right now. And so I was just laughing so much because I'm like, when did out of pocket, like when did it get co-opted in that way? Because I actually haven't heard it in that respect in the workplace.
Really?
I've been out of corporate for a little bit though.
Got it.
I mean, honestly, like 2 years, like 2-3 years, maybe 2-3 years. But I was like, I haven't heard it that way. I thought it was always this way. And so I thought it was one just super hilarious about like how the terms that we use, people hear it and they're like, "Oh, this must mean the literal version of it." And so I'm going to then like use this term. And then it got me on a whole TikTok, like, you know how TikTok is, a whole rabbit hole. And there was this other guy. And so I want to bring up some of the terms that he was saying that people like misuse. So he was like, "On God." And I'm like, yeah. Okay, so what do you think on God is? Because we all come from different places. So what do you think on God means?
On God is like I swear to God, like on God, like bro, 100, like for sure, like
I ain't lying.
Like, I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, I'm not lying. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Say less.
Say less is like you say no more. It's the equivalent of say no more. I got you. I understand. We are here. I see you. You see me. We see each other.
Yeah. Like what? Like I'm about to use slang for the slang. Word.
Period. Word. Period. Got it.
Yep. Okay. To cap.
So to capping is like you're lying, or you're exaggerating, or you're wrong. Whatever.
Yep. All the young kids, when I first heard capping, I was like, "Oh, these young kids." Now I'm out here like, "Yo, that's straight cap." Like, why?
They're capping.
You capping.
Correct.
Okay. The last one is for real or for real.
For real is what I use. I use for real.
Okay.
For real is like, no, like, okay, so I have this joke amongst my friend group. They're like, my face goes really straight when I'm trying to be serious. Like if we laughing and I'm like, "No, I'm for real." No, because I want people to know I'm serious.
Yeah.
So for real is like, no, I'm serious. For real.
I feel like anytime Black folks double up something, it's like, like it's the exaggeration. Like,
no, like for real.
Square power, exponentially. Like that is exponential. Yes.
We're doing math.
Because we're brilliant. That's why. Duh.
Yes.
But that just made that, like, looking at that though, as I was like kind of like going through the TED Talk, I was like, this is just and again, that's a generational thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times where language could be between different cultures that don't understand each other. It could be the age gap, it could be generation, it could be different sexes, it could be just like we're in different regions. One of the things that I found hilarious that you were talking about was when you were like, "Yert."
Yeah.
That's how you like ended, right? And I was like, and he was like, "I'm from like, not from New York, but like in New York, like that's blah, 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 that's how people greet each other." And I was like, "Listen, I ran it back because I'm from the Philadelphia area and we say Yerp."
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And so I was like, if he says P with it, that is not from Philadelphia. That is not from New York. That is from Philadelphia. And we need our due respect. There's this like Yert war that goes on.
Wait, did you grow up saying butters?
Yeah.
Like butters, like mean it, like mean it.
Yeah. I feel like butters are trees. Everybody, I feel like everyone.
Okay, so in Cleveland, we say butters are wheats.
Oh, you say wheats?
We say wheats. we like, yo, like, what you wearing tonight? Yo, bro, don't put on your weeds. I'm gonna wear my weeds with like some jeans, and I'm gonna throw a hoodie on.
Oh, that's wild. But like
Yeah,
when you say it in context, get it,
it makes
right?
sense.
Yeah. Is it honestly called the wheat color? I think it's called the wheat color.
Yeah, the
Y'all might
color,
be using it
right.
using
So
it
this,
yeah.
but you could say wheats to mean like any color. Like wheats
Uh
mean I'm throwing on my Timbs.
Going in your Timbs. That's crazy because I've never. It's all so maybe it's that northeast region because in Philly it was still butters of trees. Or we love the things like yo, you got the beef and broccolis on, and it's like that's the colorway of
Right,
the Tim that you
right.
then have.
Or like, like when I was doing my like living in all these places, it
Yeah.
like I just pulled from that experience because like even Butters in Chicago means like, yo, her hair getting long. Like,
When you said that, I've
yep.
never heard that, and I haven't
Okay.
spent a long time in Chicago,
So
but
when
I've
I
been
hear
there.
like butters or yams, like stuff like that, I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
butters, you mean that a girl is getting thick. You be like, damn,
yeah.
she got butters.
Yams is the yams is
Yeah,
the
bro, yeah, like
had
that's
that
what
booty.
and so when I was there one day, it was like, okay, butters, I'm thinking Tim's,
Yeah.
or I'm thinking like, oh, you saying she getting thick. And I'm like, but when I heard it, I was at church. I'm like, oh, this girl thick at church.
Like
I'm
we
like,
not doing that. Like where the little toast to be like, let's celebrate her thickness.
and then they was like, what? Like I looked at my bro and I was like, what? And he was like, her hair. And I'm like, what? And we had never seen her with straight hair ever, but it was like down. And they like, okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
butters. And that mean you got that joint like it's smooth as butter. Like you moving your hair, is flipping, is doing all the things.
Oh, the butter, okay.
It's so
Because even when you
smooth.
said it, I didn't get it, and then I was
Smooth
like,
as
I
butter.
don't.
Right.
But honestly,
But
Chicago
I
and
did
them
but I
places,
did the TED Talk in Chicago, so people was like, okay, butters, like they got it.
you got more respect even probably too, because it's like, oh, you get the regional colloquialisms
Correct.
that we talk about.
And
Yeah.
you know what? And to bring it into that too, like you brought up the kids earlier, like the way that I frame it and the way that I've never really seen many other people talk about it like this. I've seen through some of my research and through like secondary research that I found, like
Mm-hmm.
y'all should look up the Sesame Project, which is who owns Sesame Street, Sesame Project, and there's a few more that I'm probably going to release some more things soon, just around like even further research so people can dive more
Yeah.
into it. But one of the things that they talk about is how we should actually be classifying AAVE as an official language because something I break down in the TED Talk is that it has its own rules. It has
What's
its
the
own.
difference? I would love if you
Yeah.
would break down what American standard and versus was it Black
This is
American?
wonderful. And I think that you have experienced this before. Let me tell you, this is a perfect example. This is how you can spot it in real life. So there's a different sentence structure that AAVE has that we as Black people have,
Yeah.
that standard American English and most what we consider most standard languages, so English, French, those types of things that are
Yeah.
based that
Yeah.
all come from the same language. I forget what the first language or one of the first
I
languages
feel
that
like everything comes from, is it either Greek or Latin?
so one of those, it's like Greek,
Yeah.
Latin, all those. So there are different, but then there are other languages that once English, for example, came about, then this language broke off. Or when Aramaic, which would be like the Jewish language, came about,
Mhm.
then this. So it just kept evolving, which is what we
Yeah.
know is how language works. Okay, so there's this thing that the Sesame Project does that I love, and I had this understanding, but they gave me the language for it. They tested children, and they said they tested white children and they tested Black children,
Mhm.
and they used Cookie Monster. And I gotta find this video. I feel like they took it down. I used to have this video, and I gotta reach out to like the Sesame Project. I'm sure we can just get it.
Yeah.
But they asked these white children. They said, "He be eating." He be eating. He be eating cookies. That's what they say. They say Cookie Monster. They're like, who is this? They say Cookie Monster. And then they ask the white kids, they say, he be eating. He be eating cookies. And they're like, okay. And they like, he be eating, show me what he be eating cookies means. And, or how would you say he be eating cookies? Or something they play a game like
Mhm.
that. And the white kids say, he is currently eating cookies. Or they say, draw him, whatever, and he's currently
Okay.
eating cookies. They ask Black kids, he be eating cookies. And they like, yeah. And they asked him like, why he be eating cookies? They be like, because every time you see him, he got a cookie. What that breaks down as, we understand when we use be in the form of is, we white people assume that be is used in the form of is. So they think that it's meaning he is presently eating cookies. He be eating cookies, they think it's like he be or he is eating cookies.
Like now, like it's happening. Got you.
Whereas we use be as continually, is always.
Yeah.
It is an action that this person does. Like, man, Marv be wildin'. That don't mean I'm saying something now. That means that traditionally, I'm known for being over the top. I'm known for that dude Marv be wildin'. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
so that is a perfect example of like the difference in the language rules. And it's like one of the major ones that you can spot. And so it's so crazy because one day one of my friends was speaking. He was saying something. He was like, y'all be loud. And we was like, we've never even all hung out together. What are you talking about? And it was a white guy. And we was like, we just met each other today. He's like, no, y'all be loud. Like right now, y'all be loud. And we were like,
are you trying to use
like, you're really trying to say y'all is loud or y'all loud.
Yeah.
And that's another rule. We take out the verb and the verb is implied. Y'all loud. And so we don't have to speak the verb. The verb is implied.
Yes.
Whereas in standard American English, you never do that. You say, you guys are loud. You are being loud. There's not just you are, but then there's being, which is what the present participle to imply. Y'all are not loud traditionally, but being currently. Y'all are.
I've never heard it broken down in this way, and because it's just one of those things that we speak. You grow up hearing it. It's like in the household, like no one needs to tell me that we actually are taking out the verb. Like hearing it now as an adult, it's like, oh, that is what's happening.
That is what we're
doing. Grammatically, and so you could classify it as, like you're saying, this should actually be a
perfect example. I was just about to be like, yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Meaning, I was about to say, instead of like, yeah, that's what we're doing, we are doing, are being the verb, doing being the present participle. I was like, yeah, that's what we do. There's no are or present participle there, but you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that's what we're doing currently, but that's what that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing when we say that. You know what I mean? And so it's just interesting. There's so many small rules that, again, we can't put our finger on, but we know how to fluently speak in them because it is essentially our first language and we are actually learning. So I remember when I was in the 8th grade, I failed English. It was the first time I'd ever failed a class. So I had to do summer school. I got a C and I'd never gotten a C before in anything. That's what happened. And my mother made me go to summer school. She paid extra.
Now you got a C and had to go to summer school.
I had to go to summer. Listen. Monique and Marvin Sr. did not play.
Come on now. Okay. Come on.
And but they made me go to summer school and it completely changed the way I looked at the world because I realized in that moment how many things I was saying, doing, all of the things that were completely wrong that I thought were right, but it did not make them wrong to me. It just made them wrong in the way that I was being viewed. And what makes me a stronger person is knowing how to do both. And so there's actually like a coalition working right now to not only get AAVE designed and built out to be an actual language or seen as a language tool, but also to be able to classify yourself as bilingual. So my mother, and I'll finish here.
Wait, shut up.
Because here's the thing. Let me tell you, there's a perfect example for this. I don't know if you heard, but back in the early 2000s, Black people were being unjust, and people of color, should I say, were being unjustly targeted because of their language. And there was like, and there's articles exposing this, but I don't know if there are official government documents that we are clear to see. But there's articles that suggest that this is true, that Black people were being, people of color were being unjustly targeted because they were saying things that to the white ear, to the white gaze, Gaze, sounded like inappropriate language or sounded like terrorist language when in fact it is just our colloquialisms. For example, Black people were saying things like, man, she the bomb. Now they're being targeted because it's like, wait, what did they just say?
Yes.
Who got a bomb? Yes. And so it's so my mother actually, she's about to retire, so I don't mind saying this. She works for the government, and one of her like internal certifications that she shared with me recently is it's called I don't know the title, so I don't want to misquote it. Essentially, someone who is proficient to speak with someone who is using a lot of slang. So essentially, if someone were to pick up the phone at a call site and
Uh-huh.
they can't understand, like if there's a white person, they can't essentially understand because this
Yeah.
person's using conversational English or
Mhm.
not necessarily proper or standard American English, they can say, "Can I place you on a brief hold? I need to actually forward you along," and they can send it to someone like in an office who is trained to be like,
Okay.
"Okay, hey, my sister, like."
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
which is the same,
Wow.
which is
And
true
wow.
about people who call in that speak Spanish or German or whatever, and they need to handle some things. There's
I
a person who's fluent in that, so the
yeah.
same is true for that. Yeah, it's yeah.
Like, okay, you just honestly blew my mind that I'm going to be bilingual soon, essentially. That's like, or I can be certified as bilingual,
You're
or all
bilingual.
black people, or all black people
We are
essentially
bilingual.
will eventually be able to. And it's not like we need someone to legitimize that for us,
Right.
but it is nice having it be recognized and not looked down upon. So I love when you were talking about that idea of slang, right, which is commonly used, and then there's jargon, which comes from that, and jargon is almost seen as in a way is professional, or like
Right.
professional groups kind of like use that, but
Back to your
slang,
point, like I'm gonna be out of pocket. People who work in corporate would know that.
and it's like okay jargon, it's like okay
Okay,
like
jargon.
corporate slang.
It actually makes you seem like you're in the in crowd because you understand
Yes.
the language that we speak.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like almost like a coded language, right? But when
Correct.
you use slang, when you said that is, it can translate into, I think it was like the language of thieves. That
Thieves.
really struck me because it's like, and one of my favorite things to say or quotes is biblical, but like, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And so, that just shows how much power our words have to like either build up
Yeah.
and edify or to break and
Yeah.
take down. And so, when so many words are being discussed and how we talk and going into these spaces, trying to be our full selves and be understood, not having to change, there definitely is like a healing component that needs to come. And so, one of the things that I love you told the story about when you were a kid, you said the word naked, and I guess you said it in a way that's like
Mm.
let people know that you're maybe not from that area, or you say it weird. Like I'm a Jersey girl, Jersey through and through, and so water with the D, and I'm like, okay, and what? Like I don't even think about it, but people will call me out on it all the time. But you had mentioned that it's like I know we still cool. Like as a kid, you're like we still cool, but like it made you feel a sense of like othered, like they othered
Yes, now
you.
I'm othered. Now I'm
Yeah,
the outsider. I'm not like y'all, and y'all may still
yeah,
accept me, but you
yeah,
are the power holding majority that decides like if I'm in the in crowd, and that could change
yeah.
week by week, day by day.
Yeah, yeah. How do you think, I guess just talking about like language from like your own journey, what does that look like from a healing perspective for you? So,
Hmm.
like because you almost have like a mastery, right? And in hearing how you're talking about the verb and the participle and like being able to look at different languages also, and knowing the power of that. But how have you used that good and bad? How has that been a part of your journey, your healing
Yeah.
journey?
Well, I think to something that you said earlier, like, man, words have so much power and it gives us the ability to create our reality. And I think my life, as we've talked about, is like a fusion of my faith and like my purpose, which I think go hand in hand, but they come alive sometimes in different ways. And sometimes there's a fusion there where they come alive together. But I realize how much my faith drives me into my purpose. And so I'm
Hmm.
saying that to say that there are many times within my journey in which I have learned to shift and change the language that I'm using based around the reality and the world that I want to see as opposed to the
Mm,
world that currently is. And
mhm.
I mean that to say, and I guess the tie-in is that, and what I want people to take away from the TED Talk is that we must use maturity and we must understand the world that we live in and understand that it is not as accepting or understanding of everything that I just said in these last 10 minutes or even on the last hour of this
Yeah,
podcast. But the power that we have is knowing that one day the world will look different and hopefully our kids or their kids won't have to change who they are to be accepted and loved
yeah,
and appreciated and respected. But our power comes in the fact that we can be both. We can do all things. We can be all things,
yeah,
but knowing when and how we want to do that. Right.
yeah,
And so I am learning, and it has been a part of my healing journey to know that I can be with my boys like I was last night, chilling and hanging out and hair down and doing the whole thing. I know how to sit in with my boss and have a conversation in which he can receive me in a way that is filled with respect and understanding. But I also know there are times when I get the opportunity at work in a professional space like a TED Talk, at school, when I'm asked to come on a spot like this and be able to be the educated Black man that I am, but also be the educated Black man that I am. And they are one and the same. The same man who says y'all and them and folks and my guys and
my guy
and ain'ts and all of that, and we'll put it in a professional email like this, is the same man who understands how language is built. It's the same man who understands how culture is built and what our responsibility is in it, and the same man who fights for equity for everybody, even if I don't always agree with the life that you live. I also understand there should be a space for you to live the life that you want and the life that you have. And so finding fusion in all of that and finding the words that I use to approach it has been one of the most freeing things, to know that I get to tell the narrative and nobody can tell it for me.
You said so much in there. So I'm gonna let people run it back and glean what they need to glean.
Sure.
But on a personal point, one of the things that you said to me is like many times that you realize just in the journey, and especially with language and how you're using it, is many times like you are the problem. I am the problem. And that's okay, because that awareness grants me the power to make the change. Give me 4 words. We're going coming down to 4. Give me 4 words that sums that up.
About me sometimes being the problem? Oh, for sure. Accountability. Love. No, I'm gonna make that a hyphenated word. Self-love. So now it's one word.
Okay.
Grace. Work. Because it takes all of those. And you have to be willing to love yourself, give yourself the grace, do the work.
When you said accountability,
be accountable, like, and own it. Own that, like, I'm not perfect, you know? That's how I would put it, I think.
Marvin, this has been one, joyful to speak with you. 2, it has been educational, but in a way that was so fun. And I've learned so much about again, and I consider myself like a person who loves words, right? And in the more in the written form than the spoken form, like I'm better at writing. But like just navigating like that, we all hold so much power in our words. It's up to us to use our voices. It's up to us to be authentic in how we choose to show up. And that knowing that all 3 of those versions are still us, right? And so it's this idea of like finding that inner peace where they all can come together. We can get clear on like, who am I? Who am I perceived? And who do I want to be?
Who do I want to be?
So important. And also like, who am I becoming? Right. And as I look into that. So thank you so much. You were working on some other things. Let the people know where they can find you, what's going on. But I'm so honored to have you here today. Thank you. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for this process, and thank you for a safe space to just like talk through all the things and be my realist and authentic self. I appreciate you. Those are the spaces I only want to be in, and the spaces I want to create. For people who are looking for my work, you know, currently this week, my Instagram name.
You know what? It's the duality for me.
It's the duality. Listen, it might change, but this week, my Instagram name is Marvin Malone. I go ahead and follow me. You can follow me on LinkedIn, because I know many people are like, LinkedIn.
No, but LinkedIn is a spot now. People post all the personal stuff on LinkedIn.
And that's a big thing for me. I'm like, I am not defined by a company. Go look at that video. I will still do well. I'm not defined by a show. Like, I'm not defined by this company. I'm gonna tell y'all about all the things I do. Okay. But yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, Marvin Malone. Follow me on Instagram, Marvin Malone. repowering my website, so marvinmalone.com. But if you are
Mhm.
looking for YouTube links or anything like that, you can type in Marvin Malone speaking to the crowd. It gives you a basis of what the majority of my research is, and hopefully will educate you and empower you and energize you to evangelize that to everyone you know.
Thank you so much, Marvin.
Thank you.
Well, y'all, this has been a nourishing conversation, an educational conversation, and a conversation that I hope y'all laughed. Like, I was over here like kikiing and chuckling internally if I couldn't actually get it out because I didn't want to interrupt his words. This has been another weekly dose, or your weekly dose of duality. I'm Alicia Ferguson. Show some love to Deja Riley, y'all. She is out on maternity
Whoop,
leave
whoop.
right now, right? Busting out that baby for us. That was very, very aggressive, but y'all know
Yeah,
what I mean.
yeah.
We love you. Until next time, peace and be blessed.
Yes.
If you have enjoyed this episode of Dose of Duality, please do us a favor. Like, share with the homie, and subscribe. We love hearing your feedback, and trust us, we respond to like everything. Sure do. And don't forget to rate and review this podcast. Come back again next week for another Dose of Duality.